You say go live when I have a cough. Hello. I think I've been missing YouTube Live lately because I've been saying YouTube Live, and of course this is not YouTube Live. This is. I did it right that time. I've been missing Facebook. Then I've been missing Facebook.
Okay,
Live.
Gotcha.
Because I've been saying Facebook Live, and of course this is YouTube Live, right?
Right.
So I don't know what's wrong with me.
Don't even get.
I think I've debated like my complete and total ban of Facebook.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Welcome to
your Meta.
YouTube Meta Live. Is it? No, that's a different one. It's not.
Meta is the company over
Twitter.
Facebook.
No, it's the old Twitter.
No,
that's X.
That's X.
That's X.
That's so confusing.
Yeah.
Just stop and do your
Stop
intro.
trying and do
Stop.
that.
I was doing a mind.
You were messing with
messing
my mind,
with your mind.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that. All right, this is YouTube Live. On Thursdays, we do about 6:15 to 6:30 so that we get you guys participating in the show that we're going to be doing on co-parenting in divorce. So you can interact with us on the YouTube Lives. Click the bell and you get yourself a notification that says when we're actually on live. I actually am hoping we have our guy I was talking to. We were talking about was I told him like this is right
I
stand
told
put
mine
on point.
too. I've actually told several people today that this
Right.
is what we're talking about.
Absolutely
and so
on point. Yeah.
I don't know if they'll listen in tonight, but maybe if they listen in later.
So in other words, people that might have issues with co-parenting.
in divorce.
In
John,
divorce.
yes,
Separation and divorce.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are ready, Neil. Whenever you are, you got your mic up also. Yep.
Let's
Okay.
Get it going.
I will. Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on May the 2nd, 2024. We have Mr. John Pope hanging out with us over there. Hi,
Good
sir.
to see you. Hi, how are you doing?
Miss Victoria Pendergrass hanging out with us on a Thursday evening.
Hi.
And Neil's behind the curtains with an explanation that he's going to give us about shows and what we're doing with the shows and updates. You want to hit that?
I did this last week. Do I have to do it again?
Yes.
They should listen every week. So
3-4 times in a row. That's what we agreed, man.
This is the punishment for procrastination. Is what this basically is.
Not a punishment.
Yes, it is. So basically, if you listen to the show in other places besides YouTube Live, we are behind on the schedule a little bit. We are getting caught up. We're going to be doing 2 a week until we get caught back up to where the podcast will always be a few days behind. Give us time if they need post-production. But right now, I think we're in about a month, we'll be pretty much caught up. So we'll always be here YouTube Live on Thursdays, except for the second week in May. I won't be in town.
Oh, really?
FYI, no YouTube Live the second Thursday in May.
Mental note.
But yeah, join us on Thursdays, YouTube Live always, but the podcast we are getting caught up with the behind schedule. So just be aware of that. Listen to them. If you want to get caught up sooner, go
So
to
we'll have
YouTube.
an explosion of shows here.
Yeah.
Two a week to catch
2
up.
a week we got coming out. So this is where you get insights from a panel of therapists in your home or your car, but not the delivery of therapy services in any kind. I'm getting excited about the book coming out. We got the marriage book coming out. Through
I'm
a Therapist's
excited for
Eyes,
you, yeah.
Volume 2. Thank you. It's been a long time coming. Publication date will be I actually got to find out the specific date.
Yeah.
But in November.
But it's dropping in mid-fall, late fall.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Low late fall, actually.
In
Yeah.
time for the holidays.
Yeah, that's what I'm really most excited
Give them
about.
as a gift.
Through a Therapist's Eyes, you can subscribe to us, click on the buttons, leave an Apple review, all of that stuff. Contact at throughatherapist's
You need
eyes.com.
5.
John,
Five
Five
what,
stars.
There you
5
go.
stars.
he wants that, guys. I mean, I
That
don't know what we're going to do
senses
if we ever get a 1-star review, John. I don't know how you're going to ever handle it, bro.
I probably
You-
break my heart.
You really will break your heart.
I don't want to become a stalker.
I promise the bigger we get, that will happen
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
So let me see. The human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out together. Co-parenting in divorce. So I gave a segment up for Victoria to kind of come up with the ideals that we're looking for. And I tell you, well, the 3 questions also. Do you know the ideals of co-parenting? We're going to go over that in this next segment. How to manage the kids when your ex isn't quote unquote ideal. That's a big question that I get in therapy a lot, as in like today and yesterday.
And probably the day before that.
Not the day before that, although that's hard to think clinically that far. And then when to lean on the legal process. Look, unfortunately, there are a lot. No, actually, the day before that as well. Yes, seriously.
Look at that.
That was Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, Thursday. This issue has been flowing around.
Yeah.
Because we see it a lot, don't we, guys?
Oh,
You know,
Tremendous.
it's lots of questions go into like, how do we handle this? And
Right.
when adults and parents are behaving badly, I'm dealing with currently one of the most I'm going to say extensive parent alienation situations
oh, really?
that I've seen before. Yeah, and I've been doing this a while, and I've seen some pretty torrid undercuts.
Yeah.
It could be slicing with people, and actually I have two kind of going on right now. That's just like, dude, you know, this is legal. I mean, it's kind of criminal,
Yeah.
really. I know that's a pretty
a big statement.
statement.
Yeah, that's a bold statement.
But listen, I am an advocate for kids, and I mean, if you are tearing your other parent apart and maliciously talking about the other parent, I am going to land strong on the fact that you are hurting bad your kid.
So it's very acrimonious, and what I'm hearing then is that one parent is actually denigrating, actually just saying horrific, terrible, slanderous
slicing,
things.
cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah, not in simple ways, but just in
manipulative.
very manipulative, very devious.
So are we talking maybe even with one of the partners a severe personality disorder?
I suspect.
Yeah.
Definitely. I definitely suspect borderline personality disorder is around when that scenario is going on, or some serious narcissism, particularly from abusive relationships that probably were abusive.
Yeah.
Before, but anyway, we want to go into the ideals, but I want to put a cautionary tale on this.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'm curious what you guys think. People are kind of aware of the ideals now,
Right.
a little bit more. I mean, there's nothing shocking that you're going to hear in this. I think the thing I want to highlight is we're trying to get to that space.
Right.
Very few people are going to be
Very few people
living this ideal segment out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's really hard to. I mean, you got divorced. You're in a heavily emotionally decompensated state.
Yeah. Or you're separated, headed towards a divorce, or
And we're
somewhere
talking about
along the
managing your
process, yeah.
emotion with one of the most difficult things of parenting,
Right.
that there is. So.
So it'd be highly conflicted, highly enmeshed relationships, even broken relationships that are, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, because
that's what we're dealing with.
divorce. I think divorce is one thing when there's no kids involved.
Yeah.
But then, when you add the kids, you have this whole other aspect of, well, now it's not just about me and this person I was with, but now there's like these other human beings that are, actively involved in the situation and have the potential.
Undevelopmentally prepared, right in the middle.
Yeah, that have the potential to be affected long term based
Right.
on how the parents handle things.
Right.
So,
It's a big deal.
yeah.
So anyway, I didn't expect to go on that rant, but it just
Yeah,
hit
it's
me.
okay.
It just
It
hit me
happens.
because I'm dealing with it right now. Like, parent alienation is bad. I mean,
It is,
I'll tell you what. If you have a super highly critical parent, I'm going to make this bold statement again, just to explain it. If you have a super highly critical parent, I've made the statement that would just churn your insecurities and eat you from the inside out. Parent alienation, can we say, is that worse?
Then having a critical parent.
Yeah. Than being heavily criticized by a parent, can we say that parent alienation is even more psychologically damaging for the kids? It's a new thought.
It's
Yeah.
at least equal, if not more. Yeah.
At least equal, if not more.
Yeah. I
What
would
say you, John?
Maybe. I don't know, although I have less
I know,
experience.
putting you on the spot, but
No, because I was just talking to somebody that was emancipated at 15 back in the mid 80s. At the age of
Oh, wow.
15, which people didn't do back then.
no, right?
Yeah, and so there was an alienation on with both parents at that time, and because it was so dysfunctional. So, and
Now,
so
by
was it-
alienation, I mean one parent undermining the other.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
or is that what you're saying? That
Yeah, because I am saying that, but I'm also saying that there was a sense that she could not be with either parent because she was so alienated from them because they both went and talked smack all the time about each other, and
Okay.
she just couldn't live there.
interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
because they stayed together.
Oh wow.
Oh, so they didn't.
So
get
they
a
were
divorce.
actually alienating each other in the eyes of the kid, so much so
But-
the kid had to get
Emancipated.
and the parents actually stayed together.
Yes.
Wow.
And one of the
Okay.
and their son just went deep into substances and then actually committed suicide.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Wow.
because he went to jail like 3 times.
Heavy family
Yeah.
dynamics there, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
And she's an adult now.
She's an adult,
Yeah, yeah.
And-
Still dealing with the ramifications.
still dealing with it,
Yeah.
struggling with it.
I'll tell you what, if you're in a separated or divorce circumstance, I'm going to say it again. If you're saying anything bad to the kids or undermining the parents, agreeing with the kids about how bad the other parent is, like you have got to stop it. It is killing your kids' heart,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Even if you don't see it now.
killing the kid.
Yeah.
Even if the other parent is bad and you're just pointing out the truth, it's still killing the kid's heart.
Yep.
All right, so let's get away from that. Victoria, what
Yeah, I'll take
are
it
the
away.
ideals? Take it
Okay,
away.
so
What you thinking?
Chris asked me to create a list of ideals within co-parenting within divorce. And actually, I do have one to add at the end. Okay, so right off the bat, we have respect, right? Ideally,
So RESPCT,
yeah,
Okay.
RESPECT.
Is that a song, John?
RESCT.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is that
a
respect,
song?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Tried to get him to sing it.
Victoria,
you can't make me
your
laugh.
allergies are
Or like kicking
wicked,
my butt right now. Yeah.
Wicked.
That's North
I want to
Carolina
say, suck
pollen
it to
for
me,
you.
suck it to me, suck it to me. RESP.
Okay, so yeah, first we have respect. Like obviously, ideally you want respect for both partners. Like I respect my previous partner, and they respect me. Okay.
Which is honestly part of what I was just talking about, right? I mean, obviously, when you're engaged in your ex behaving badly, oftentimes they're very much disrespecting you.
Mm-hmm.
So and then you struggle if you get in the gutter, right? Where
Right.
you just want to turn the disrespect back at the disrespecting parent. Now you've got both kids hearing both parents,
Yeah.
being tore up.
Well, then they can be confused about which
Such a
way do we
mess.
go, who do we believe, if we're hearing two different things, like
Yeah.
all the things. Okay, next we have workable, and I'll add flexible scheduling. And I recently learned from John right before this that I didn't know that apparently they have apps where you can like
Really?
co-parenting apps where you can have
Talking Parents is a very good app. And,
Okay.
where you can like have the schedule and you
What
can
is it,
kind of,
John?
like-
Talking parents? You've
Talking Parents app, and you can find it at Android or iPhone, Apple Store. And one of the aspects of it is that if you are really estranged from one of the parents, and you're trying to work out schedules and co-parenting
Not if,
schedule,
when, 'cause usually you are.
and you're not in communication, this is a way to do it dispassionately.
Okay.
And that would and so people do not get drawn into the emotionality
The
of
Talking Parents app.
Talking Parents. It's one word, Talking Parents. And
Okay.
I've recommended it very highly. I think it helps turn down the stove a bit, the boiler.
Sounds like we need to contact Talking Parents and get a sponsorship.
Seriously.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But, like,
that's
having-
awesome. The oldest person in the room, Victoria, is giving
Yeah.
us teaching us about an
Right.
app. I love this,
Yeah.
John. But well done, brother.
But yeah, like workable
So-
schedules is ideal because you want to know that, like, I mean, things come up, right? Like plans, like you might, when you get divorced and you have a custody agreement, there's typically a set schedule, correct, right? Where
Yep.
you're at one parent's house for a certain time or length, and you're at the other parent's house a certain day, time, length, whatever.
Routines,
Routines,
days,
all the
yeah.
things. But also, like, things happen. So I guess, like, ideally, it would be nice to know, like, if say it was my relationship or whatever, if I had something come up on the weekend, that I could message my ex and say, hey, like, do you mind watching the kids this weekend? Like, this came up, and then them being like, yeah, sure, I got you, like, no worries.
It's
like,
again ideal. We're talking about
yeah,
ideals.
we're talking ideally, like, that's
And I think that would eliminate some of the subconscious sabotage that might be going on. That
100%.
yeah,
and that you'd be able to do that, and then that person doesn't feel like,
right.
oh, they sprung this on me.
Right. So I kind of tacked along that, like, appropriate flexibility.
It goes right together with
Yeah.
it. I mean, honestly, the just as a kid, I can tell you, how much that, what'd you call it, that the subconscious
Sabotage.
sabotaging
Yeah,
kind of reality, right? Like that is a powerful thing. At the age of like 10 or 11, my parents went through separation and divorce. They were definitely in the category of less than ideal. Mom and Dad, you were, they didn't handle all of that the best in a lot of ways. And that messed with me, even still to this day. Like when my
Right.
sister was deceased, I literally felt like, oh, Mom and Dad's going to be in the same room. How's that going to go?
Right.
That's interesting. Let's watch this. Let's see how that is. But certainly as a younger man, I was less established in my emotional self, hopefully growth a little bit. And man, the wedding was an absolute, utter mess
Yeah.
for me. And
Your wedding?
Yeah.
Having your parents
Yeah.
there at
Dad
the same
didn't.
time?
Ended up, Dad didn't even come. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
to,
wow,
to
yeah.
my own wedding, right? Like crazy stuff.
Because of your mom?
Or
Or what other things? Yeah.
The guest list, like who do you invite, who you not want to invite, all that kind of
Let's
stuff.
see if, in terms of a traditional wedding, and it's the bride going down, and both there's a sense of amity between the ex, the mother and the father that are divorced. Who's going to walk me down the aisle?
Oh,
that just
Tormenting.
The list goes
it's a
on
mess.
and
I've
on.
done,
Tormenting.
yeah.
Absolutely tormenting.
But, okay.
So appropriate flexibility,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of moves us into effective and open communication.
Oh, gosh. That sounds broad,
Again,
Victoria.
I know, but again, remember, this
We
is
are
ideal.
We
This
are
is
ideal.
is that, when issues arise, when there's scheduling conflicts, when anything happens, the ideal is that both partners or both the parents will be open and say, like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. Like, let's figure out a way to work through this, all the things.
I'm glad that you went and just into some specifics there, Victoria, because you've also got, which I thought was funny, active listening on
Right after it.
on the list, which is a part of
Kinda go hand in
communication and
hand,
whatnot.
yeah.
And so do boundaries, for that matter,
Right,
which
which
is
I
also
have
on
that
your list.
yeah.
And the thing is all of that we will talk about here in a little bit. Emotionally focused therapy.
Right.
That's what you do when you're in marriage counseling, is
Right.
figuring out how to do this. Now you're divorced. Guess what? You're still figuring out what's going on with your internal emotions and how is that limiting your ability to speak to the other person. I hope you've graduated to that point instead of sitting there saying to yourself, this other person doesn't communicate well, it's their fault, and that's why I got rid of him. No. Like,
Right.
EFT
Well, and I
conversation.
think the active listening, I think I put that more for, like, the whole saying of, like, listening to understand versus listening to respond
Right.
kind of thing, which I think happens a lot. Again, this is ideals because I think it happens a lot in divorced parents. This whole, like, I'm not really listening to understand what this other parent is saying, my former spouse. Like, I'm just listening to respond. So ideally,
So
you're
not thinking ahead of what you're going to respond saying.
Right.
In other words, you're actually listening what
Yeah.
the person is
To
saying, the
understand where they're
content,
coming from,
emotions.
to understand what the issue might be instead of just like, oh, what is my response going to
Again,
be?
you sucked with this when you were married.
Right.
You're gonna suck. It's gonna be even more difficult now. But
Right.
this is guys. This is
But
the
again,
same.
this is ideals.
It's ideals, and it's also the same issue. And guess what? You're gonna deal with this in your next relationship.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many people like nowadays tell me, particularly the women, like, oh, I don't want to do another relationship. And guess what they do? They move into another relationship.
With the same type of personality.
Same issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, same issues.
Your internal
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
So you've externalized in terms of you build this projection in terms of a relationship.
There's a word.
And there's an internalization. You externalized what is internalized, and you kind of set yourself up for defeat,
failure.
For
100%.
failure. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so next I got still being able to do activities, etc., together without any issues.
Like going to a wedding.
Like going to a wedding, or like going to your kid's soccer game, going to your kid's parent teacher night, going to your kid's play, whatever. Like being able to still support your kids, but like doing it together.
Am I just hearing
Yeah.
that it actually might be more complicated to be divorced and separated because there's new relationships that are made and other children, and so you become involved even if you have one set of children. You actually might
Yeah, because then if like say I
Talking about blended family,
Yeah.
right?
blended
well, and then
family.
if each parent goes off and marries, if you can see me, I'm on the camera. Like if each parent goes off and marries another person, and then they have kids together, well then like they're gonna probably want to come and support the shared kid as well. And so then like ideally you would want to be able to like get along.
And
For everyone to
and
be able
there's-
to
and
do
there's-
that without like trying to kill each other.
and there, I'm
Here's the
sorry.
thing: there's no real golden rule about this because
Right.
I've seen everything from my ex is dead to me and we do nothing versus the other side of the continuum. We have Sunday meals. Literally, I always think of her. You know, this lady was talking to me, and her ex-husband and her would like have regular Sunday meals together. You know, for like the following 15, 20 years up until the time that I met with her, and that blew me away because I was a younger clinician at the time, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought about my own parents. I'm like, that would never work.
Yeah.
Or could it in the ideal world?
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead. No, you go ahead before I move on to the last
And
one.
ideally, that grandparents that are involved, or uncles and aunts that would be involved, would would treat the children in a blended family the same,
Yeah.
and so that
And not trash talk
yes,
the ex.
the ex, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and that
Yeah.
could be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Lastly, but not least, keeping the kids as the main focus.
Yeah, they're the point. In divorce, your relationship
Yeah.
is ending or is
Ideally,
ended.
that's the focus. Is
That's the
we're going to
point.
do whatever you and I are going to do whatever we can to make sure that our child that we had together has the best life they can, even though their parents are no longer married and together.
Okay, so Victoria, you ready to get real?
Yeah.
Oh, the nonverbal.
It's just I just lived in the ideals for so long between yesterday and today that now I just like don't
How do we
wanna-
cope with your ex-spouse who's not being, quote,
Right.
quote, ideal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get reality-based, John.
Yeah, reality check.
How do we deal with this? How do we deal with that? It is more common.
What, for it not to be ideal?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
anything but
Right.
ideal. I mean, because you said it, you were blown out of the water with this ex-spouse and
Oh my God, Sunday meals?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Sunday meals.
Well, and sometimes I think the idealism doesn't happen for a lot of couples. When it does exist, it doesn't happen from the get-go. That it's like there is a bunch of like toxic things happening, and then over time, then they learn to like work together.
You know what?
And so then like, but unfortunately it sucks for the kids when it's being all like crazy at the beginning. That's not great. But then I feel like in my experience when working with people, they usually become more towards the ideal parts of co-parenting and divorce, like later on at the longer that they've been divorced, kind of thing.
have been holding my breath for the last 30 seconds because I am so glad that you put a light onto that, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is the reality.
Yeah.
You will probably very well not start out in ideal land,
Yeah.
but you can most certainly work through these issues. We have this thing that's actually called divorce counseling and whatnot. We have family counseling, and we have skilled people that can help facilitate you objectively through that. Listen, the second, quite possibly most difficult parent alienation circumstance that I was really closely working with a particular family turned that. I mean, it was so amazing to watch. Not over weeks,
Right.
not over months, but it was over a few at least years, 3 or 4 maybe. I'd have to look at the notes to backtrack. Got to a place where they really could do much more, almost up to Sunday meals. I mean, they started out from the second worst parent alienation circumstance I've observed.
Oh my goodness.
Right, John, it was amazing to watch them be able to get to the place like you just
Right.
highlighted. So thank you for
Of course,
teaching
yeah.
us that that's possible.
Well, I think it lets people know there is hope for things. Don't always have to stay so like toxic and negative at the beginning. Like, it can get better over time.
That's one of your trailed off moments. I'm not sure if we're supposed to wait or you go.
No, go for it.
Go.
No, that was all I really had to say
So,
at the moment.
so coping with the ex-spouse, to me, I alluded to before, emotion-focused therapy. That is what a foundation that we use. Matter of fact, we just did another review of that. No, we didn't. 201. We're going to do one at 301. At
Okay, gotcha.
11, 101, 201. I figured, why not keep it going at
Yeah.
301? So, abandonment, pursuing behaviors, engulfment, withdrawing behaviors. Check out any one of those show numbers I just mentioned. We take deep dives on that. It's a foundational reality. It's the exact same thing when you're separated or divorced. All the communication things you just were talking about. You have got to be able to deal with your internal insecurities so that you can then effectively, deal with your ex. Even when your ex is acting the same they did in the marriage, if not probably worse.
Right.
Right? John, how much have you done divorce counseling? Have you done that much?
Oh, I've done a lot of weddings.
Weddings, yeah.
Divorce
Yeah.
counseling.
Yeah.
In fact, I've not done a tremendous amount. I've
Have you not?
tried to, and I've been, I guess, blessed that way. But I've had a few, and it's rough. It's wicked, and I don't mean that wicked like evil, but it's very difficult, and I think it's more difficult than other types of counseling. At least maybe that's from me.
Sound crazy to say that I even think that I'm good at it?
I'm
sound
going to
crazy?
start referring people to you.
Oh, dear. Well,
His schedule is already full.
hold on.
Why do you think I've been also like?
Hold on.
Yeah.
just
No,
want
you
to
can send
advertise
it to
that
me.
as a specialty.
I would say,
Because it is tough.
yeah, it is tough, and and I think that's where the clinician has to be able to say, I'm not going to be drawn into this, because there's the back and forth, and you have to de-escalate quite often, and the accusations they go on there.
We're mediators sometimes.
Yeah, and so I've done my share. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say that, but hopefully, when I've done this, is that I've had a number of folks that they've reconsidered, and they've said, okay, we have to change, but it has to be that idea. It's like you said, you have to change, where you have that one person
Blaming.
that's blaming, and the other person will blame back,
Defend.
and so there has to be a sense that they have to step back and take deep breaths. That's why I think you do a lot of individual mindfulness and individual counseling with the clients before they come together for
Yeah. I personally don't do, if I see them individually. I don't see them as a couple. Me personally.
Yeah, I just
and
feel-
that might be something that changes over time. So like I just referred a couple that I see both the husband and the wife separately, but I just referred them to, and I think they're now seeing or going to see you, John. You haven't met with them yet.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I have.
And so
Charming.
because for me, at least just at this point in my career, I do find it difficult to like keep that all separated.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I also see one of their kids too, and so it's a
The
very
point that I'm
like
making, Victoria, though,
Yeah.
is that it's if you're doing divorce counseling, to me, it's a lot like doing marital counseling,
Uh-huh.
and some of the highlights
That's
that you were
where-
talking, John. Yeah, it's like it's the same thing. It's the same dynamics.
how do we make this work?
Yeah, for
yeah,
the purposes of the
and I
kid now.
maybe misunderstood you because I would say that the way I approach it is that can this marriage be saved and can their relationship be actually have a new beginning? Can they rise like from the ashes like a phoenix?
Yeah.
There, take what was destroyed and build. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and in divorce, I want to suggest you could do that by looking at these same sort of issues, which is, the segment that we're on is how do you deal with your ex when they're not acting ideal or they're being, just, we'll just say difficult. Because there's a lot of words
Yeah.
that could be interjected there. And you'll see that a lot of my brainstorm and thinking is really about the internal self.
Yeah.
You can't control the other person. You can
Definitely
only
not.
control yourself. So you're going to need to deal with your insecurities, such as with marital counseling. You're going to need to practice the serenity prayer. You're going to need to engage in your own de-escalation.
The serenity prayer is what I give all my couples.
Right?
really?
Jane?
Okay, do that. I give
Yep.
that to them.
Is that why it was on the counter the other day?
Yes, that's
I love
why it was
that.
on the counter. But let me ask you this: you say that we do this ultimately for the kiddos, the children that are affected, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
In divorce, probably.
What? Tell me if.
I think I
and
know
I'm
where you're
t-
going.
Where do you think I'm going?
I think I know where you're going to.
If you're dealing with your internal insecurities, if you're dealing with your internal negative self-talk, if you're dealing with your internal hurts, if you're looking at your own insecurities and you're managing all of that actively with a serenity prayer, in divorce, your kids will certainly benefit, but yourself benefits.
It
a
sure
crap
does.
ton too, right?
Yeah.
Is that where you were going?
in a sense, and I don't want to say, well, I'm going to use terms good or bad, but you become a better person.
Yeah.
And you become the person that you were intended to be. And by becoming healthy yourself psychologically and emotionally, you're going to be a better ex-spouse or spouse if they
Right.
reunite and parent. And so there's a lot of internal work that has to go on, but it has to go on in terms of, let's say if you're doing divorce counseling, that you get both people committed to it, and then also the rules, which would be no alienation of affection, no alienation of a parents.
Yeah. That's got to be the
Okay, yeah.
start, which is why you had on your ideal section,
But-
first
but-
word was respect, right?
And I
Right.
suppose that a person is blaming somebody so much
Ugh,
on the other
yeah.
case, they have self-loathing.
Oh,
ultimately.
say that again. And what does that mean?
Okay, when a person
That's complicated.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, it's my understanding that if a person is blaming someone else for their deficiencies, they're actually projecting their own. There's another term.
Yeah.
Their own feeling of insufficiency and self-loathing onto that other person, and maybe even to their kids.
Right.
Okay,
It's a nasty
and it's a
Little-
cycle.
cycle that
Yeah.
you get into, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Did I explain myself?
No, I think absolutely. I just
Okay.
wanted to, them out there to to hear that, because that's such a profound reality that happens a lot. I mean, if you're blaming the other person and you're attacking the other person, oftentimes you got so much going on inside. That's why, the segment here is ironic to me. Like, how do you deal with the other spouse not being ideal? You deal with yourself.
Yeah, and they do. In Jungian psychology, there's the idea of the shadow self, which is kind of a darker self. That's
I forgot that. What is the shadow self in Jungian therapy? Therapists, tune in, listen up.
Okay. Well, the shadow self is the person that you don't want to acknowledge. You want to say, well, I'm not that kind of person, and but a person that's in tune with himself or herself or with self is able to say, yeah, I have those aspects in my personality that are destructive. And if I am pointing at the deficiencies in my spouse or my estranged spouse, I'm actually seeing deficiencies in myself, but I want to deny it and push it down.
Jungian therapy, the shadow self. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a real double-edged sword there.
Yeah. Well, I was taught that during, when I went to seminary and when I started counseling.
Seminary?
Yeah.
Instead of you picked up a lot in seminary as opposed to
I had a third of my coursework in
school,
3.5 years of seminary was a third of it was pastoral care.
Psychology stuff.
Psychology, psychology.
Interesting.
I love that.
And
It
of
is
course,
interesting.
Jung was always well loved and existential.
Jung
Yeah.
was well loved.
Yeah.
I had in my list thoughts about how do you deal with this whole reality. Developing I is the word that came to my mind, Victoria, or renewing the levels of respect and understanding that you have, with the other person. But there could be developing with that. There could be real forgiveness and healing in the letting go of anger.
Because also, like, I think along the lines, like, you can, and I don't know, y'all might disagree with me. I think that you can like someone, or you can not like someone, but you can still respect them.
Well, yeah, of course.
So I see that as like you can not necessarily be the biggest fan of your ex partner, but you can still respect them and show that in front of your kids.
Yeah, I got a buddy.
Yeah,
I love you, man.
If that makes
I don't want to
sense.
say his name, but I got a buddy who's like, he'll say right in front of his kids, and they're a little older now, but he would say it years ago too. I mean, it's like, look, I can't stand your mother. I mean, he's pretty honest about it. I can't stand your mother. But when he comes into town, he's able to be respectful with her. Yeah, he literally stays in her home. Right?
Okay.
They're able to kind of,
Yeah.
do this and have interaction and engage, with each other. And, he's helped her out in different ways. And, she obviously helps him out because he's out of town now. But he's like, yeah, he says so funny. He's like, yeah, I can't stand your mother. I mean, what something comes up. It's
Yeah.
like, but you can still respect her.
Right. Or you still show up to the soccer games together and yeah.
So here's an interesting thing that I have landed on for a while in this segment still of, look, how do we deal with the other person? And I must admit, a lot of this thinking has been with me throughout almost all of my career because it's also based in my personal, experience, with divorce. My dad was chewed up, man. I mean, he I hope he's not upset with me saying, he felt like a little boat in the ocean, being basically just pushed around and illegal. It was a mess in the 80s, John.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What happened in the 80s? Do you remember with the guy? Basically, you have to get out of the house.
Yeah, you have to get out of the house.
You go to a little apartment.
Right.
You get every other weekend visitation
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
You get blamed by the woman in society who you're not providing for your family. You're a deadbeat.
That's
Or
when
you-
safe houses were developed, which I think is a good idea.
or your
obviously.
Disney dad. This is where
Yeah.
the Disney dad image come, and it just sucked. And it's almost like the guys had no choice at the time. And from that, as I developed into a clinician as a young person, I thought through how that works.
Well, that was the fathers' rights movement that started during that time.
Right.
As
It's
well.
much better now
Yeah.
than it was. But men invariably, to a man almost to a certain extent, I think almost universally, universally felt like some level of undermining of them. And
Well,
their
they're going to
role as
lose.
dad.
They're going to lose custody of their kids.
Losing custody, losing relationship, talk about parent alienation. I mean, it almost happens. Some alienation happens like, with unintentionally almost. Like,
Yeah.
You get off the phone with your dad and the mom is crying and upset. Obviously, the kids see that you're crying and you're upset and you just talk to
Right.
dad. So dad must have been a bad guy. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's natural.
I have been working with a man who's middle aged, and he was very much alienated from his father
Yeah.
because mom had left. I mean, mom had taken him, and he was basically abandoned. In terms of he felt abandoned
Right.
from his father. That wasn't what his father intended at all. He
Right.
wanted to stay in touch with his son.
And you feel, so you feel really helpless, guys, is what the point is here. And now women are in that circumstance a lot, where they're feeling the same things. There's some role reversal going on, is what I see. So here's the underpinnings that I've really found true blue, and they play out. First of all, one, you've got to understand the kid's survival mechanism psychologically will not bite the hand that's feeding them. Meaning the primary people that take care of them, which is both parents, they won't bite. Kids aren't going to bite. So, if you do get alienated and whatnot with the other parent working against you, you've got to understand the kids are under that survival mechanism. They're not going to be mad at their mom, or vice versa. They're not going to be mad at their dad. However, they will invariably be drawn to the healthier person, but it will take time. So you're needing to be consistent.
Amen, brother.
Over a period of time, and that is years easily. And the kid will be drawn to the healthy parent. And I've seen that play out, John, my entire career.
But I think dads oftentimes get very discouraged because they feel
Horribly.
because they're the ones a lot of times, and I'm going to make I'm also going to say both sides. I'm going to argue for both male and female.
Right.
But sometimes the person that is least able to communicate with their kids is the one that there's a lot of self-blame. And
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean
Well,
to
no,
interrupt
they're
you.
fine. Like I was just gonna say, I have someone who, we've been talking about consistency with him and his kids,
Hugely important.
and just and I've been trying to get him to understand that, which I think he's starting to, that it doesn't. He made a comment. It's been a month, and I was like, "I'm sorry. I
Right.
really hate to break it to you,
Right.
But
Break it.
it's not a long time. Consistency takes the same thing you said. It takes months, years, sometimes.
No, not months.
Yeah.
We're not talking about months here.
We're
We
talking
are
about
talking about
years.
years. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that was
Of being consistent,
That was
of
actually-
continuing to do the thing that whatever
To
it
be
is. that
well
you're
and
doing.
healthy.
Yeah.
that's one of the first things that we address in marital or divorce counseling is that it could take a long time,
Yeah.
a long time,
Yeah.
and to process through all the confliction and all the feelings.
Yeah, to
that are
get that
going on.
expectation that it's going to
Okay,
be short term out of your
there's-
brain.
There's another thing, and I've seen with the changing of economy. So this is a sociological aspect of this divorce.
Okay.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot more. See, I do more divorce counseling than I thought I did.
You probably maybe
Yeah.
so, right?
Yeah,
I find that a lot in my head. I'm like, I don't
I
need to
call
do
it
that
the
anymore, but okay,
three-story problem. Is people have 3 stories in their homes a lot of times, and when there is estrangement, the man cannot afford to leave, and he goes to the basement, and the mother stays in the top floor
Okay.
With the kids.
with the kids,
Okay.
and there's still that alienation. And so
Yeah.
I've seen that I've seen that on
With
several.
the economic reality.
Economic reality,
Yeah.
because when couples divorce, even if the mother's working, their income goes down
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
substantially.
Well, then
And-
the more kids you add to that, the
There-
more finances that are required to feed everybody and find a place to live that can sleep everybody, and yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Let me go to one more of my tried and true and solidly consistent for a very, very long time when dealing with your ex. And I want you guys to comment about it, see if you ever thought about it that way. And then we need to move on from this segment. Unless you guys have other
No.
things like
Go
that.
for it.
The reality of it's a major question, you know, the other spouse, you know, the daddy told him about the affair, and I don't know what to tell my kids. You know, like how much to share. On what level do I share with the kids? It's a fundamental question. John's face agrees, right?
Yeah,
we
I
we
do.
hear this all the time.
Yep.
Here's my landing spot, and I think this is pretty solid. What do y'all think? Because you've got to layer in, first off, that the kiddo can ask you anything. And that's like Parenting 101 that we're going to talk about next week, actually, with Love and Logic. A little advertisement there. So the kids got to know that they can ask any questions. And that needs to be reinforced and demonstrated. That isn't easy to get the kid to know that. And they never probably will get there, but the closer we can get to, the better.
Right.
And then you allow the kids questions to drive, John, how much it is that you share. Because they will ask you questions, and they will ask you things, and they will bring things to you. And that indicates what developmental level they're on in order to get the information. It's a huge aid in understanding.
In
what
other
am I
words,
supposed to
being emotionally open and open to your children.
right,
and
because the
that-
age you can't know by age what to share. But
Right.
you know their
let them
By
take
what questions they're
the
asking.
lead.
yes.
But then I think you also can set up boundaries when they do ask questions that might be prying a little bit too much. You set up the boundaries to show, like, hey, these are like this is not something that we're going to talk about.
Victoria, you may think I'm crazy, but you know I don't think that
No?
kids ask inappropriate questions and boundary questions like that. Think about it. Now, sometimes they may ask a question that isn't really what they want to know. They
Gotcha.
don't know how
Okay,
to
yeah,
ask
maybe that's what I'm
that.
trying to get at. Yeah.
I'm going to submit to you, they're not going to ask inappropriate questions. They're not going to say, well, you know, I mean, so how many times did you have this affair and have sex with this woman,
Right.
mommy? Or this, yeah. Or did you have sex with a woman or whatever? Like, ew. The kids understand,
So
like,
you're
I don't
saying
wanna do that.
you're leading it by when they're ready, they'll ask the questions. It's
Right.
kind of like potty training. They let you know when they're ready.
Or the birds and the bees.
Or the birds
Absolutely.
and the bees. Like all those
Absolutely.
And the
different
flowers
types of
and the
things.
trees.
And Santa
And
Claus and everything else.
Everything
and
else in
tough
between. Okay,
conversation.
gotcha. I get what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well let's not spend too much time. I definitely want to try to be brief on this, but I don't want people listening that are in this situation to not hear us comment about like the legal game here. Like how do they handle the legal game? How do you handle the questions? And when do I do I do mediation? Do I do a lawyer? Do we litigate this? Like I'm pissed. They're acting ridiculous. So I'm just going to sue. I hear these things like. I'm going to get you for everything that I can get you for is threats that are made and
Right.
this type of thing. So, I mean, first of all, definitely do not do this immediately.
Yeah.
You don't want to go the legal route. In fact, in a
don't
lot of
do
states you can't.
things just right off because you're so angry.
Right.
That don't act on that. You have to step back. And I'm thinking in terms of clients that have gotten in trouble because they actually had the spouse or the partner say something that was not true, like somebody being struck. Or now, if it is true,
Creative fabrications.
creative fabrications, yeah.
Mhm.
And that's going to make
That's a
things,
rabbit hole.
That's going to make things
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
worse.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
that's
more complicated.
That's one of those, just don't do that. Don't do that, guys, gals. If you're thinking that way, you're going to do your kids and your family and yourself a whole lot more damage when you just do that, lie through this.
And that is going to absolutely destroy communication, lines of communication with your children,
it's just a mess.
because already a divorce and a split is going to disrupt those communications
You're
and
just
feelings.
doing harm,
Right.
So
it's going to emotionally damage the kids.
ultimately, I'm thinking when to go legal to me, guys, is when yourself or others, namely the kids, are being harmed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that You know, I just don't know.
And that's your primary duty, is to take care of the kids.
Yeah, and if you have to do that legally because people are getting harmed, you know, that's when you go into to litigate. I have no problem with that point, but definitely not in the beginning.
Right.
And definitely needing to, as you say, John, cool down and chill out a little bit. Any other thoughts about the legal game?
What about the idea that the couple separating, being apart for a year in North Carolina?
Oh yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we are based out of the state of North Carolina, and in the state of North Carolina, you must be separated for a full 12 months, a full year,
And
prove it before you can apply, or whatever the terminology is, for divorce, and that means that you are no longer sleeping in the same house.
Can I piss people off a little bit?
So most people get a separation agreement that is like that a lawyer draws up, so that way that's their proof of like, this is us separating,
Right.
or whatever.
I say that because I think a lot of people are frustrated by that as a rule or as a law. And to be honest with you, I mean, I wouldn't probably line it up as myself if I was, you know, governor or in charge, but I kind of like that one, John.
Well, you know what I think. I think it's a good idea.
Do you too? We're usually in lockstep
Yeah,
there. Yeah, I actually kind of like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
do.
don't necessarily have an issue with it.
It drives
either.
people nuts, though.
It does.
I've never. I don't think I've ever heard in 20 years practicing the state. Oh, I'm so glad that this is.
Never have heard it.
Yeah.
but,
Because are there any exceptions for the
I
law?
don't think
I don't
so,
know.
man. I don't know. Maybe in domestic. violence.
in some states, I think Louisiana.
definitely
I
other
didn't know.
states,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know about
So-
North Carolina specifically.
In
so
Louisiana,
that's
they
weird.
have a covenant marriage. I think also in Texas, which is it's harder to get divorced if
Oh,
you
really?
enter into a covenant marriage,
Interesting.
which would be more of a traditional Judeo-Christian
Okay.
marriage.
Okay.
Basically,
Interesting. They make it harder.
They make
yeah,
it
and
harder.
around the world, I know that there are different
Right.
statistics, but you know, we have divorce around the world. The thing is you have to recognize the limits of your systems, and you do yourself wise to just consult the lawyer, figure out the limitations here. How does your county, how does your state, or how does your country operate with this?
I'm going total geekdom, but
No.
I find
Love it.
I find it interesting that there are people that cohabitate and have like 3 or 4 kids all together, and then they finally get married, and then a year later they file for divorce.
So they did better as just cohabitating.
Yeah, and
without being married.
but see, the problem is that I think it's harder to be married, and I think that than living with someone, and I think one has to will grow intentionally as a result of that. So
Yeah, I'm purposely not going to comment because I think there's so much there, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly,
Could
there's
do a whole
so-
nother episode on
so
that.
much
and I do, but
Yeah, I know
you
where you're
from my background. I'm just
100%.
Yeah.
100%. What about a segment here as we're running into the end? After the dust settles, after things settle down, let's tune your brains into the long dance, the longer journey, the getting into, you know, what my friend Craig, I loved him when he said on the show, and I think he's absolutely right. He was going through his divorce, and he looked at me on the air, and he just said, you know, Chris, I don't know, man. I think you just got to be single after divorce for, like, you know, several years just to get your head
wise
straight.
words.
I thought so.
Wise words.
I was like, Craig,
Yeah.
you're absolutely on point.
Yeah.
I'm almost 95% sure he said that on the air. So if he didn't, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that out loud. So after the dust settles, I'm just going to wrap through these, and I really
Yeah,
want
go for
to look at, like, what do you guys think and what can we add? So self-recovery is the priority.
Amen.
Okay, self-care, as we talk about ad nauseum, is ever present.
Love self-care.
Right? Don't lose focus on the new relationships or the new established boundaries and the new reestablished relationships that are there with in-laws and new dating partners and all of that moves. Stay consistent with the kids. Convey their priority to you and your ex-spouse also, you know, but but the boundaries and the priorities as they shift, like that's a whole discussion on how to manage the new dating partner. Are they the priority or not? But that you have to be conscious about where the priorities lie. Lose the blame. Dig into what happened on your end, the serenity prayer, John. You know, on the only side of this thing that you can control anyway. As you continue to impressively grow, that will affect by far the whole system. And then helping the kids avoid a perceived need for compartmentalization. I'll deal with mom when I'm dealing with mom, and I'll deal with dad when I'm dealing with dad. I can tell you as a victim of that sucked ass. It wasn't easy. It messed with my head for many years to think that I had to compartmentalize them. You work to shut that down. So we could do a whole show on any one of those.
So dealing with the children is that when you, and I got people mad at me, a couple mad at me because I did say, are you making your children the priority?
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
They didn't like that?
They don't like being called out.
They fired me.
Oh,
So
Glad.
So-
it's a
probably
ground,
'cause they didn't like
solid
you.
ground to stand
Yeah.
on, my friend. If you needed validation, which I'm pretty sure you don't, hell yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that when parents go out and they split up and they're all emotional and they're crying and all of that, and the first thing they do is both of them, the male or the female, and this is not all the time, they'll go on Tinder or they'll go and they'll
Yes.
I love that you know what Tinder is. First
Yeah,
of all.
he's on it. I mean, apps and
yeah.
new
But yeah,
relationships.
that's
and,
what I was.
Go ahead and finish,
Yeah.
John.
No, they'll swipe and then they'll start entering into conversations, and so one person will be in the basement and he'll be looking at matches, and she'll be up on the third floor and she'll be looking at matches.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking.
It's a mess.
They're not dealing with their hurt, their damage.
No.
Yeah,
That's
they're
in
just-
them. So
Oh, yeah.
that's enough
Insecurities
I'm
are
gonna
raging,
say.
and yeah, John. And the idea is, I need comfort, and this other person is going to give me comfort. You know what they want? Sex. That's what a lot of the apps are. It's like it's a horrible. Like, listen, we've done shows on dating, and it's a mess. When
It
you're
is.
it's a nut. You know, syphilis is out of control right now.
I saw
Doctors are
that,
telling
yeah.
me.
Yeah,
And it's
especially-
very
Yeah.
virulent.
Yeah.
Virulent. They talk about F buddies.
Right.
Just like, and I am 70 years old, and I'm going, wow.
It's-
I'm hearing this stuff. Yeah.
It's a nightmare. And it's all in the eyes of trying to deal with this aftermath. That's why this section is so important. Like, you know, the dust is settled with your family changing, and it's kind of in the now what. And you realize I'm not going to continue my life as I made vows or ended this partnership, whatever it might be. And like, people aren't good at just settling down and figuring out your own crap. Please just settle down.
Yeah.
You can do it.
You can do it.
It's a lot. It's a lot that's just moving around in their head. And John, I was sitting there thinking as we got a little animated. I mean, what are the kids doing on the second floor?
Right, in between the two, yeah.
If you happen to have 3 floors, right? Or
Yeah.
mom's in the bedroom and dad's downstairs. What are the kids doing in the living room?
Yeah.
Fending for themselves.
They're going fending for themselves. Going, yeah.
It's a mess.
I'm gonna go try to make dinner while Dad's on Tinder and Mom's
Dude, I-
complaining to her friend.
You know when there's a problem is when one of the kids or both or 3 will act more adult than their age.
Oh,
I
man,
literally just had a
absolutely.
conversation today with a client about how when his parents got divorced, he basically became the third parent as the oldest child. And like we talked, and like, I mean, he knows that the impact that that's had on his life, but like we kind of talked about it today, and like that came up, and like that's a real thing. And he's in his 30s now.
I mean,
You
as
can
the joke
talk about
goes,
it dispassionately. Yeah.
Yeah. and
as the
it's
joke
like,
goes, I have to parent my parents,
Yeah.
and many people experience that, and I experienced that as well, Victoria, talking to adults in therapy, going back and managing, these realities as though they
Yeah.
have to be the adult in the room.
Right.
Like, what kind of pressure?
Like, what
Remember that-
10-year-old needs to be an adult?
Exactly, Victoria.
Or
Remember that
12-year-old
case,
or whatever.
the situation, it was ended amazing with this parent alienation circumstance that was the second most dramatic I've ever dealt with. It breaks my heart to think what this 12-year-old little girl was dealing with.
Yeah.
And there was one particular time it just broke all of our hearts. I mean, she was in that bathroom over there just losing her ever loving mind. I think she almost or about did throw up with
Right.
the pressure that she felt because they started going at it
In session.
in session.
Yeah.
Horror show.
Yeah.
Again, it had a great ending in that case. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh! I mean,
That was catharsis.
Good for them.
Cathartic.
Good for them. Yeah.
it was definitely cathartic in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, but just you've got to deal with your crap, guys. You know, in this aftermath. That's it's really like that's when the work starts.
Yeah.
You had so much turmoil in this marriage, and it ended. Now the work starts.
Yeah.
And you know where you can do that?
Well, a lot of places. Certainly,
In therapy.
all right.
Right there.
But there are other ways to kind of manage this. Listen, divorce care,
Yeah.
wonderful program.
Yeah.
Wonderful program. You know, churches have, recovery.
Like grief share,
Grief
divorce
share.
care. Yeah.
Divorce care,
Yeah.
Celebrate Recovery that deals with your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. There are awesome places, not just therapy.
Right.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
people can plug in and deal with these things. And I tell you, if you don't, it'll deal with you. It dang sure
Sure.
will deal with you in your next relationship.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And the relationship with your kids moving forward for the rest of their and your
I think the
lives.
idea is
100%.
the peer support that you get with other people that are recovering from divorce.
Yeah. Well, I
I agree.
what do you mean? Go further.
No. I mean, I just that some churches. I think that's why you were talking about celebrate recovery or divorce care. Is the idea that there are groups that you can be in that will actually there's sort of a fellowship there, and some of the groups actually do steps,
Yeah. Right.
12 steps.
Right. So let me read whatever my list is worth, and you guys silently think if there's anything to add. But highlighting that the self recovery in your own internalized self is the priority. Self care, the cornerstone of mental health, has got to be in place. Not losing complete focus on the new relationships that are and boundaries that are being established and reestablished. Ex-in-laws, new datings, all of that. Staying consistent with the kids and conveying their priority over the years, not months to come, not only months to come, and the new boundaries as they begin to shift, the consistency over the years to come, not just the weeks or months. Losing the blame, stopping the blame game, digging into what happened on your end, the serenity prayer that we speak of a lot. And lastly, helping kids avoid this perceived need for compartmentalization. Dealing with mom when I'm dealing with mom, dealing with dad when I'm dealing with dad, and ne'er shall the two ever have to, be joined.
And I think I see that with every kid that I counsel that has that to some extent is the compartmentalization.
I would say that's kind of
Yeah,
universal.
Yeah.
Even the parents that are able to do the whole Sunday meals together thing, John. Maybe not universal, but
Yeah.
pretty freaky close. That's a rare situation.
And I say that's the ideal, and that's something that we can, with grace, accept that we're going to try to achieve.
And forgiveness.
And forgiveness. And
health
forgive.
and growth.
And forgive. And forgive.
Yeah, a lot going on. Appreciate you guys hanging out with this topic. Understand, listener, if you're in any these stages of circumstance, this is tough stuff to deal with. Hear the ideals, Google it, see it on TikTok. We did the first segment, but realize it is hard to live into that. We want to move into that as much as you can
Boy, I
get
like
there, as
that,
close
live
as you
into.
can get into to that space. That's the goal, and by all means, recover and heal yourself because you got a important job to do with those little kiddos that
Yep.
are still your little kiddos. So be well. Hope this has been a helpful conversation for you.